Welcome everyone. This is one of the nth edition, online edition of Data Plus Women Romandie. So we are based in Switzerland, near Geneva. Very quickly, for people who have not been to any Data Plus Women event, it is a community and a meetup group for women who work in and around data. It is not specifically related to Tableau or data visualization in that sense. And the aim is to promote and celebrate women who are doing excellent work in this field, where we usually find that there are not so many female role models. I should also say that Data Plus Women does not mean that we want to be exclusive. And I think the proof is our two speakers today. So everyone is welcome to participate, and I hope that you're not thrown off by the name of the group. Just a quick word about the sponsors. So the Data Plus Women group is sponsored by Tableau. And this group is actually present in many countries, including thousands of many cities, and now includes thousands of members. For those of you who are used to Tableau user groups or TUGs, how Data Plus Women is different from a TUG is that we can talk about any data topic, as I said, and not only related to Tableau, even though our events tend to focus on Tableau because we love it so much. Having said that, some housekeeping. As I said, this is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on YouTube in a couple of days. The speakers have kindly agreed to share the technical material that they show here today on Tableau Public. We will send you all these links in a follow-up email, so you don't need to hurry up and write notes. Our next event will also be dedicated to dashboard design in Tableau. It will be held on the 27th of May. You will receive all this information, so please enjoy the event, ask questions, and have fun. Very quickly to remind you, we have two speakers today, both talking about maps in Tableau. Nabil Majoul, he's a data visualization and data governance consultant, and he works in Switzerland. He will give us an introductory talk about mapping in Tableau. And then Marc Reid, who is a Tableau Zen master and is a data visualization designer working for Lloyds Bank, will tell us more about the map layer feature in Tableau, which frankly I have not used so much, so I'm looking forward to the talks. With that, I let Nabil share his screen and start his presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nabil. Hello. Thank you. All right, let's start this. Of course, when you mean presentation, Fatima, I guess you're expecting one, but as I told you, I don't like doing presentation. So we're gonna do this live without any background. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, even better. Yeah, by presentation, I meant whatever you want to share with us today.
Okay. So we're gonna start from the beginning. From the beginning, it's what you guys gonna see when you access your data. You see this little kind of map modes, or little circles. That means that this data is geographical for you. And I mean, it's no magic. Basically, Tableau is analyzing the name of the fields and deciding, because the name of the city that needs to have a geographical role as a city. So you have this database which is built in within Tableau with different geographical role that has built in Tableau. And of course, when you use it, you can either have it automatically assigned by Tableau, or you can decide that whatever field you have has a geographical role. So if I go back to my mapping thing, the easiest stuff what we do the famous sample store samples. If I go to my city, I double click on it, and all by the magic, I have all my city appearing here. What's basically translating from Tableau that he's taking this city and has a database inside to decide which longitude and latitude they have, and I can display it within the field. Of course, this geographical let's say roles are different from country to country. So as I say, if you are in the US, you can go to the zip code, or you can, or find all the airports, but in different country we not know that. So the first information I think that is interesting that you guys can actually access this information, and country by country you can see what level of details you can have from that. So if I go to Switzerland, here from this link that's going to be provided, I know that I have the following geographical roles available: the airports, 13 of those; cities, 12,000 of those; counties, 134. So we have some certain level of information. So that's fine if I have zip codes and to use, but if I don't find the information that or the level of information that I need on the geographical database, I will need to add this information. So I have a couple of ways for that. Historically speaking, you had possibility to import geocoding, which is basically provide a list of codes to use and deploy as points in Tableau, but that has historically. You have another option to use spatial data, and it happened that in Switzerland here we had elections last weekend actually, and the elections are known to be at the commune level. There is 2,000 communes in Switzerland, and if I go back to my list, I don't see the communes available. So if I want to display this information by communes, I will not be able to use that from the traditional database that is available from Tableau. So what I will do, I'm gonna access a new data sources, create a new data center. I'm gonna access a spatial file that can be in a different format. And in this case, I'm gonna do this one. And if I want to, I can have this is an Esri CHP file, but you can access different format. And basically, I downloaded this from the Swiss Federation website and have all the administrative boundaries from Switzerland. So if I click onto this, I'm going to have a new data sources. And if I can access my data source here, you can see that I have a geometry field x60. If I double click on this, I will have the different levels of communes with 1,000 of those. I'm going to have, I know a little bit, the challenge of this is not technical. The challenge is that the file are usually in German, and my German is not very good, but I know that the ID for this field is the BFS number. I'm going to transmit that to a dimension and put that on my details. And if I add the name here, to my tooltip, I can see that all my communes. So now I'm not using the database from Tableau, but I'm using a CSV file, and this is a way for me to access this data. The second thing is that I need to do is I want to display the result of the what we call votation here, which is a little bit like a referendum. And there was several subjects on that. So I picked on one of the least controversial ones. It was about some kind of treaty where is Indonesia. So let's see who would like Switzerland to sign a commercial treaty and in Indonesia or not. So here I'm gonna go to not in the relationship, and actually I will. I'm going to add a new file, and it's a Microsoft Excel file that I have here, hopefully, with the results again. So if I have this file, and I will use the data, and I will take the results of this fields and make a link for it. So I'm going to take my BFS number, and I have here a field that is the commune number, if I believe. All right, so we're good. Now I'm linked my geographical file, which is CHP defining all the boundaries in Switzerland, to the list of the results in the commune. And then I'm good to go. So if I go back to my map here over here, I can see that I think there is a we field. So I have a percentage of yes or we, and I could put that on my color, and I will change the boundary because I think I have some better problem. I will say let's go. I know that 80 will be a good boundary. And if I can change my colors, I will see, let's see. Let's take this red and blue. And hey, for some reason, I found out that the French part of Switzerland doesn't like to have the treaty accepted in Indonesia and with Indonesia, and I can see the result by commune. So that's one way to access the information from using the CHP file that you can download. What's happening here, and which is, I don't know how many people are from Switzerland, but last, I think, from the beginning of the month, the Swiss Topo announced that they're going to make all their data available for free. So you have a wealth of data that is available for you to access and to use. One of the kind of other, let's say, data source of data in Switzerland that we have published the list of the buildings that are available within the country. So I have prepared this data source. See, Fatima, I did a little bit of preparation.
Nabil, can I make a request, please?
Yeah.
Some people are having problems with the voice. Is it in any way possible for you to speak louder or increase the output of
the quality of the volume of my voice?
The volume.
All right, let's see what we can do with this. Okay, thank you. Is it any better? I'm gonna screen.
For me, it's fine. I let the people, yeah. Okay, we have a yes. Thank you.
All right, so I have this CSV file, and I will show you what's in it. And basically, I have here all the buildings in Switzerland. There is 2 million of those. We're going to take some time for the display, and this is the coding for national coding, but this is translated to longitude and latitude. And basically what we can do here, I'm going to tell him sometimes, this is a longitude field. And what I will do, I will try and to display these fields within within the map. So if I go there and I take my longitude, what we do is put your longitude in columns, your latitude in rows, if I remember well, and then you get your ID of the building here in details. And if you switch that to a dimension and you put that on details, I'm asking too much from Tableau here, but displaying 2 million building in the row, so you can Switzerland. I have some data problem here that I will exclude. Okay, there you go. Of course, if I do that with an extract, it will work a little bit more, sorry.
So just for curiosity, you said that this information is public in Switzerland?
It's
All the
public.
buildings?
It's public. You have a repository of the whole building in Switzerland.
Right.
To win some time, I prepared probably go back to my other
But is
presentation.
it public buildings or private buildings? Everything.
It's all the building, 2
Everything.
millions of those.
Wow.
And of course, I was a little bit optimistic trying to display the 2 millions, but hopefully. Sorry? Here we go. So I have my building here, and I can see all these points are different buildings. And of course, what I can do is actually, I did it, add an worksheet action. And basically, I took on the information from this building and building an URL, a dynamic URL, so I can go and do that. And when I click on a building, I can go and access the map. And you guys can check that is an actual building and have access to it. I have the address, and I can access extra information to say what is the status of the building, how many levels, how many floors you have, and such and such. So, and that's just to getting the list of buildings. One way also to accelerate this thing is actually, instead of building using this latitude and longitude, is actually make a calculation, which is a new functionality in Tableau, to make the points. And actually, I'm going to create a point from this latitude and longitude and call it building, and use this new things to display that. So that's one information. The other information, and that I want, the way that we wanted to show you, and probably, is to go and use this hazard area. So we have also published it through the Swiss administration, a map of dangerous hazards, natural hazards. So here I filtered down in the valley, and basically what I'm showing on this map is that, from the water hazard, the region and the level of hazard that you have by region. So I knew that in this region, the area is substantial, and on the other one, there is no danger on such and such. So the idea is how to actually make it that I look at my buildings, and here we go. Of course, we have a demo problem. Oh, okay. Basically, what I'm gonna do is look at all this building and assign for each of them an hazard level. And how I do that is to build the actual intersection between the area of the map and the buildings as a location. So if I go and create my new data sources here, I will take my special file, which is the hazard area map that is published also by the administration, and I will make join and special join with the building file. That is in CSV. And to do that, I will use my geometry field that is in the CSP file. That all the CSP file you find the geometry field. But what I will do, I need to join us to the field within the data. So I have my latitude and longitude. So I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to create a point with the latitude and longitude. And then my join will be based on this intersection field to build. And unfortunately, it's not gonna be able to, I have too many points here to display. So I'm just gonna show you the result here. So when I do this, I'm able to see for each of my buildings, the level of danger, and the same way I can do and look at it also as additional information. What I can also do is, if I go back here, I can also build 2 layers of data. The points are my building, and my danger area is displayed in the colors. And this is built within a dual map. And I believe that Marc will be talking to you about layers before, after. So I will leave it to that. This is basically the kind of stuff that I want to do. So I'm not sure if you guys have any questions or requests after that. Other than that, I will give the floor to Marc.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
You did a bit quickly the join between the buildings and the hazard area.
Okay. So here I have my CSV file again.
Yeah.
And to do my join, I will use the geometry field. The geometry field on the CSV field you will have a geometry field, and it's basically used. And then I will use the operator intersect that's been there for a couple of releases now, and I'm not sure, probably Marc will know better than me. But here, to what I do, I need to create a point, and the point will be created with using the latitude and longitude data that I have. And for that, I will create a calculation. And basically, I will make a make point using the latitude and the longitude, and I use that to do my intersection. And that will allow me to do what we used to call, because a point in polygon, like in locating each building within this area, and so I can associate the level of hazard of the building within that the hazard area. Is it clear now?
Can we do relationships?
Can we?
With the shape file?
No, you can't use a relation. You can.
You cannot.
I mean, not for the intersect. You can use it if you look here before from the other sample. I use the relationship, but for the intersection, you don't have the operator intersection within the relationship. So you need to go all style.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have a question at this point for Marc? You're free to put it in chat or try to unmute yourself. If not, then we can come back to it later after Marc's presentation. Thanks a lot, Nabil. Thank you very much. And people are already asking if we will share all the links.
Yeah, I will
sources.
finalize a workbook and put all of this within Tableau Public and provide you with a link.
Thank you. Yeah. So Marc, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Fatima. Just make sure you can hear me okay.
Yep, we can.
Okay, great. So I don't know if Nabil, you need to stop sharing or I can just overwrite. Let me see. I'll just try and share. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, great. So just let me know if you're not able to see that. But so hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me to talk. Really happy to be here to talk about map layers. So map layers is a new feature that's coming to the product recently in version 2020.4, and has some really interesting kind of capabilities in terms of what you can do now with maps. So I think we can just dive straight in. So if you've created maps before in Tableau, you know, it's quite easy to create. We've seen some of those from Nabil's presentation there. And just to kind of recap on how you create a simple map before map layers came along. As Nabil pointed out, you can just double click on one of the geographical fields there and you create a map very simply, and then you can change that mark type to a map. Go ahead and add a measure onto color and you have a core breadth within, you know, within a sort of few seconds there. So it's really easy to start using maps in Tableau, which is one of its real prime advantages, I think. And the next thing you might want to do is then layer some data on top of that. So this is where prior to map layers, you would use the dual axis map. So we'll just look at that very quickly now. So if you wanted to add points on top of the map now to show profit, we would then duplicate that latitude pill. So make a copy of that, and that gives us another marks card. And then we can go ahead and drill down to a different level of detail to city. And then we can change the measure there and put profit onto color. Just change the mark type to a circle, and then we can just add a boundary so that's a bit clearer. So then we have the profit on the top layer and the sales underneath, and then we dual access these using that menu option there, and then you can see that we have the two layers layered on top of each other. And that allows us to do some kind of analysis. So if we zoom in here, we can see that, for example, Texas has quite high sales. It's a darker blue. But we have a couple of cities that have actually negative profits. So in a real use case, that's probably something that you'd want to investigate. So that's how we go ahead and create the dual axis and have multiple layers on top of each other there. So that's really useful. The only issue with that is with dual axis, you have a maximum of 2 layers. So there is that limitation. And that's really where map layers come in. So they actually remove that limitation and allow you to add more layers on top of that. So the way the map layers work is we no longer have to duplicate the pills, the latitude pills, and use the dual axis. You can actually just drag a new geographic field that you have in your data on top of the map with one layer, and then you can just, that will create the new marks card for you, and then you can go ahead and drag in more and more fields as you need them. So then ultimately you can just go ahead and add as many layers as you want. There's no hard limit on the number of layers. So it really frees up the potential of what you can do with maps now. So just to show that example again, using the map layers, we have that initial layer. We can then go ahead and drag city onto there. You can see I have that city layer. And then I'm going to just size those by quantity of sales. Just resize those slightly, make them transparent. So that will give us 2 layers, one with sales and one with the quantity of sales. And then we can go ahead and pick up postcode here, and we'll drop that on as another mark layer. And then we can color that by profit. Again, just do some formatting, bit of resizing. And then we have 3 layers on the map there. So we're now looking at sales for the state. We're looking at the quantity of sales at the city level, and then the profit at the postcode level. And there's various options in there as well. You can disable selection, move the layers up and down, rename them, and so on. So you have a bit more flexibility in terms of how you manage your layers in the product as well, which is great. Okay, so this is just a slightly more formatted version of the same thing there. Just to reiterate, we have the 3 layers, the state layer, the city layer, the postcode layer. And we're having 3 different layers, 3 different marks cards, and it's the mark card that allows you to have the different encodings. So then we have, for example, the mark type of the map, one of a shape and one of a circle. So it's the first time we've been able to do that in the product now using these map layers. So really great addition. So that's a quick kind of example using the sample superstore data. So we look at another use case here. So when I was exploring the feature when it came out, I was thinking about how I might use this, and one use case that came to mind was perhaps buying a house. So if you think about when you're buying a house, what kind of spatial data would be useful for that? If you think about obviously the house prices, so in different areas of a city, the different areas are going to be some more expensive than others, so that would be one source of data. Then think about, you might want to live near a park or have a certain amount of greenery, maybe the floodplains, road noise, supermarkets, locations, you might want to be near one of those, and maybe you have an electric car, so you're looking for EV charging points, things like that. So I went out to find some of this spatial data. So there's a site, data.gov.uk, that has a number of these data sources there for freely available. So then we can look at a few of these. So this is a shapefile for a part of London that shows the average house price in each of the borough in London. So you see the darker color is more expensive and the lighter colors are less expensive. And then I can layer on top of that the parks and the greenery. So this is actually the tree canopy as a shapefile, again, across London. On top of that, I layered the floodplains. So you can see how they really spread out into some of those areas. So it's really good to know where they are in terms of if you're buying a property. You don't want to be buying one in a floodplain necessarily. Similarly, you have the road noise. There's another shapefile here. You see out for some of the main trunk roads coming into London. On the left there, they have the noise really spreads out from those main roads. So really good to know. And then we have supermarket locations. So these are the circles. So we use the make point that we saw Nabil used there earlier as well to create these points on the map. And then finally the EV charging points. So again, this was had a text file that had latitude and longitude, created points of those and layered those on top as well. So then we can think about how we can use that to make decisions based on all that spatial data that we have, and maybe those two areas at the top there, they're in the lighter areas, so less expensive, they're close to a charging point and supermarkets and near some greenery and so on, and away from floodplains and noisy roads. So that might be two areas that we want to look at first in terms of buying a house. So that's just a kind of an example of how you could start to use spatial data with map layers to help with the decision making. Okay, so let's go on to, we'll look at an example in Tableau. So this is an example again using some spatial data. So I found some Airbnb data. So it's points for Airbnbs in London. And I'm just combining that with the same file that I used in that previous example, which is the EV charging points. So the scenario is that we're looking for an Airbnb in London that's near a charging point, essentially. I'm going to make use of some other spatial functions in Tableau, which is the make point, buffer, distance, and make line. So you'll see those coming in as layers on the map as well. So just switch over to Tableau. Just put this into presentation mode. Okay, so I'll just outline there's three main data sources. So one data source is just a quick kind of 6 rows of data with these different points on. There's just a latitude and longitude of these different points. So in a real use case, these might be, tourist sites, or they could be office locations or something like that. And then there's the EV charging points, and then there's the Airbnb data. So there's a couple of filters we have as well. So these will be able to filter the prices of the Airbnbs. We can select the room type, whether you want the entire apartment or a private room and so on. And then the EVs, there's different charging types of connectors. So they're the different connectors there. So the first thing you want to do is pick an area where you want to stay. So let's say, for example, you want to stay near Richmond here. So you click that point. And what that will do is update a parameter, and it will take us to that location now. And we have a buffer here. So this is another layer. So this buffer is saying, you can see the target in the middle there, the red point. So that's where we want to stay near. And we can change the buffer size using this parameter down here. So make this a bit larger. So I'm happy to stay up to, let's say, 2.5 kilometers away from my target. So these are all the Airbnbs, the blue points. And you see they go from a lighter, which is the less expensive, up to the more expensive, the darker. And we can see the charging points there. So let's say, for example, we want to filter some of these down. Let's say my price range is, say, 100 to 150. So that's going to filter those down. And I'll talk about this a bit later, but I'm not actually using filter actions here. It's using a set, and there's a reason for doing that, which I'll explain a bit later on. And maybe I want to have the entire home or apartment. So that filter those down a little bit more. And let's say I have the type of connector on my car is this second one here. And let's see what that does. Okay. So then maybe we have quite a few options. Maybe I want to stay, let's say for some reason I want to stay at this one here. I can then click that point. That then becomes the selected Airbnb, which is in range there. And then it's telling me that within this second buffer range here, which is 500 meters, there's 3 charging points available. And if I was happy to go a bit further from my Airbnb to reach a charging point, maybe up to 900, or even a bit smaller, I can then see I've got five charging points available to me within this range. So this is how I'm going to be traveling. This is the distance I'll have to travel to get to my target location. And then this is the distance away from the individual charging points to the Airbnb. So a few of the things we might want to do once we've made that decision, we could then sort of maybe hide the ones that are out of range just to tidy this up. And then we could have the option to download this as a PDF maybe, and we want to send that to a colleague or a friend or someone who may be traveling with us. So you can just click download. That's one of the recent features that came out, I think last year, to be able to simply download a PDF of the dashboard. And then we have the option to maybe start over. So we could then clear the current selections and then just reset our map here, and that will take us back to the original starting point. We can start a new search. So it's just kind of an example use case of one way that you might want to use map layers here, and using a few kind of other spatial features to make that all kind of work. So I'll just go into the view to just show you a few things what's happening behind the scenes there. So there's not a number of parameters and sets being used. You can see all the layers here. So we have the charging points there. We have the Airbnb points, the target locations, the lines, the buffers, and so on. So there's kind of quite a few layers there, and these all kind of interact with each other. And if I switch back to the presentation here, I'll just talk a little bit about the joining and the reason why I was using the sets there. So if we're using a single data source, it may be the case that, so in that first example with the sample superstore, we had the city and the postcode were all in the same row. In that case, your geographic layers would all be on one row in that case. But when we're using multiple data sources, currently, or at least in the version 20.4, it's not possible to create separate map layers from separate data sources. So you do have to join the data sources in some way. So for example, on the left, we have our Airbnbs, on the right, the charging point data. We have to bring these two files together in some way. So you have a couple of options. You could union those data sources if they have a similar structure. For example, if they're both latitude, longitudes, and you have similar fields, you might want to do it that way. The other option is to do a full outer join using a join calculation of, for example, 1 = 2. And obviously that won't join any of the rows, but what we'll do is bring the file, to put them together. So you'll have one data source, and they'll just be kind of misaligned, if you like. So the data from the first file will be in the top left, and the data for your second file will be in the lower right there in this example. And everything else will be null. So this will bring up a couple of issues just to sort of bear in mind. So if we, for example, on the dashboard there, where we were filtering to a particular price range, if we were to use a filter action and click on that price range, that bucket, it would then filter out all of the other price ranges, which is exactly what we want to have happen. The problem is that then we also would lose all of our EV charging data rows, because they're obviously not going to meet that filter condition either. So we have to solve that problem. And the way that you can do that is using sets to filter. So the way this works is when you click on the price range, it updates a price range set. And then if the Airbnb is in that price range, then we want to draw a point for that Airbnb. And if it's not in that set, then we just return null, and then in which case it doesn't draw a point. So effectively what it's doing is then this allows us to filter out data, but for the Airbnbs, but it doesn't filter out any other data, and allows us to kind of still create these spatial points conditionally. So I'll show you an example of how that works. So in this case, for the Airbnb points that I'm using, I'm checking, does this Airbnb, is it in the price bins set? And is it also in the room type set? So whether it's the whole apartment or the private room. And if it meets both those conditions, then we have the make point, which we saw earlier on. And it will draw a point for that Airbnb. And if not, it will just return a null, so it won't draw the point. So there's a few more examples there. There's the marks card that I showed you in Tableau. It's a bit clearer here. So you can see that the make point calculation is being used for the target locations. It was the first thing that you see, the red points of our targets, and also the Airbnb and then the charging points. Using make line to draw the line from the selected Airbnb to the target, and also from the Airbnb to the charging points. And then we're using buffers to show the range of area where we want to be able to select the Airbnb and the charging points, which you can customize with parameters. And on the right hand side, there's a few examples of the calculations. So again, the top one there, we're drawing the charging points if they meet the condition up there of the selected connector type. And the second one is drawing the line. You can see there's a condition there also, which is feeds into the start over. So when we do a selector point at the start, it puts that ID into a parameter. And then also the third one, the target range buffer. If that target location again is also not blank, then we will draw the buffer. So hence, when you do the a few people have asked when I've done this before how the start over works. So that's what it's doing, is when you click start over, it clears those parameters. Therefore, it will no longer draw those buffers. So it kind of clears the view. So I feel like that makes sense. I know it's quite a lot to take in there, but there's a number of workbooks and blog posts that you can go to. So on my Tablet Public, I'll have all of these various map layer workbooks, which you can download all of those. This one we're just looking at today. I just need to republish that actually, but that will be downloadable today as well. And there's a few blog posts as well on my blog, which talk about some of the map layer features and how some of these things are built. So you can have a look at those as well. And there's various other resources that you can go and check out. So a number of people in the community have been exploring the map layers and doing lots of interesting things. There's also some kind of alternative uses of map layers. You can take a look at those and just various other examples. So these slides will be available as well. So you'll be able to just click on those links and go to those various blog posts. So yeah, that's it really. That's all I had to share today. So hopefully it was useful. I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah, and I'll hand back to you, Fatima.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mark. Very interesting. Just going back to, I actually had a question. You said that we cannot bring layers from different sources at the moment.
That's right.
Will that change?
That might be a question to Nabil actually, but so I can't say for sure. I think it would make sense to do that. And I believe that may be happening, but yeah, okay. I don't know for sure, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Right. And another question is, when you said that you had to make this set in order to not, catch the nulls from the previous source, yeah. Is there any other way to make this work apart from sets in your experience?
So that's really the way I've used it. I guess any kind of condition really, it's basically just drawing the point based on a condition. So you could also do it on a parameter. You could set a parameter and do it that way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Does anyone else have a question to Mark? You can write it in the chat or speak directly.
I do have a question, if you can hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, Mark. I have to admit, I haven't had time to explore this new layers feature yet, but it seems fantastic. So my question is, the fact that you introduced it as a nice alternative to the dual axis makes me wonder if the feature is available for things that are not maps. And I think the classic example is the donut chart, which we always need to do a dual axis type thing to make a donut from a pie.
Right.
Is this, or are the layers only available if you select a map visualization?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So that is certainly the intended use, is that it's really only for maps at this time. But I would yeah, I would definitely recommend taking a look at some of the resources that are linked to here. This is a number of examples where people have done various other things.
Pies and donuts. Okay.
yeah, and much more than that actually. So yeah, some folks have really gone to town on this and created all kinds of quite complex dashboards using map layers in that way. So what you can do is when you create the map layers, is then just turn the maps off. And then you still have your map layers, but you can do other things. So you can start to create charts and so on. It does start to get a little bit complex at times, but yeah, I would definitely say take a look at these blog posts here from the various authors on screen and see what's possible.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
and if that's okay, I'll ask another question, which is, I assume that the background is you don't get a different background for each layer. So the way you were able to overlay the different backgrounds in your first viz with the house prices was because you had different spatial files.
That's correct.
Right. So, but the background layer is the same, is fixed for every map layer that you add.
That's correct. Yeah, it's really just it's really just one map. So it's the map is just a singular thing, and it's just the layer is just the data that's going on that, whether it's points or spatial file or buffers or lines. They all sit on that common underlying map.
Yeah, this is related to something that we encountered that we were using map layers from a web map service, and so it's not really spatial file. It's really backgrounds, different layers in the background. And I was wondering if this could be worked in with the map layers, but I'm guessing no from your answer. But I'll have a look into it. Yeah,
I mean, one thing to sort of maybe just to add to that is, one option is you can also use Mapbox maps as well as a background. So if you wanted to add other things into Mapbox and customize your map in another way there, and then use that as your base map, you could do that as well.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Marc.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Marc. If you have a few more minutes, we have a question from the audience in the chat.
Okay.
The question is, what's your advice on using map layers beyond geographic maps? Is it advisable to make other kinds of charts?
So really up to you. I mean, I've done a few experiments on this. You can see on this one in the lower left here, I was exploring this idea of using maps to kind of create this custom UI. It was kind of just an experiment, really, a bit of a playful thing to do, but I wouldn't say it's definitely not. I would say not best practice, but it's an interesting idea to explore. It'd be interesting to see where they go with this. If Tableau develops this a bit further and makes it possible that you can use map layers for standard charts, I'd be interested to see if they do that. But at the moment, particularly if you start to create things like line charts and things like that, you have to really start kind of customizing your measures and kind of normalizing them, or maybe dividing them by some kind of spacing calculation and things like that. So I think there's potentially some issues around maintainability and handing them off to other people who, maybe we're not so familiar with that functionality, but it really depends what you're trying to do and what your use case is. Maybe for a one-off viz that's a bit more exploratory and, might be something to look into, but if it's more for kind of your business dashboards that need to be maintained and have handed off to other people, that maybe something to be a bit more wary of, I think.
Hi, Fatima. I have a question. It's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Marc. Thank you. It's good presentation. I didn't have time to look at it before. Performance-wise, I see how does it work? Is it really, let's say, production ready to have so many points and so many layers? Is there a limit for that, or?
Yeah, so it really depends how many points you're putting on there and the size of things like shape files. So, for example, this one with the kind of the house buying example, some of those shape files are really quite big. They're sort of, I think they're around 50 meg or something. So you're putting multiple of those on top of each other, it does start to slow down a little bit. This example, I mean, we can try it. Let me see if I've got this loaded up. I put this, yeah, so for example, yeah, that one's a little bit slower. I think I hit that one, yeah. So, yeah, so think this one is not too bad actually. There's a fair amount of spatial data here, I guess. But yeah, for example, you click here. I mean, it's the usual kind of update time. I think within Tableau, it's not too slow. But it's also trying to draw these you know, when you can click here, it starts to draw these pie charts on top of there, which I guess it's not, you know, it could be quicker, but it's not too bad. But I think if you start to use like sort of a million, I mean, I think you had about 2 million points on one of the maps you're using there, Nabil, so that was a little bit slower. It's really about the number of marks really that are in the view. That's where things start to slow down. But for example, that example I was using, the Airbnb, that's really fine. I mean, there was only, you know, sort of a few thousand points there, so it's really not too bad. But yeah, again, this was more an experiment. I wouldn't recommend this as a, you know, it's definitely not best practice to do this kind of stuff, but it was just kind of seeing what was possible really with map layers. But it's kind of an interesting idea. Then you can kind of click through here and use this as a kind of an interface to highlight other areas. Actually, see if I can get through to this on Tableau Public as well. Actually, let's see. Yeah. So this is the so when we were doing the demo that I was looking at from Tableau Desktop, this is now looking at it in Tableau Public. So yeah, it's not too bad.
And this is how many million data points?
I kind of forget actually how many are in here, to be honest. Let's go back and have a look. If we pick something here and then just go to the map. Oh, I need to go to the... Let's have a look. What we've got here. So this is 11,000, something like that. So yeah, it's not...
After the filtering though. It's not the whole data source.
That's true. Let's take this off and let's have a look. Yeah, there's a lot more there actually, isn't there?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there's like 77,000 or so in this particular file, all the Airbnbs. So yeah, this is rendering that on server. So it's, you know, it's not too bad. And then yeah, you can always hide those. You hide the ones out of our desired range, and then it makes it a bit quicker. And you can kind of expand your buffer to include more of you. You're happy to travel a bit further. So this is a kind of update speed. I think in zooming on maps, it just takes a few seconds to upload there. So yeah, it's not too bad. Again, it's I think with anything with speed, it always comes down to the number of marks that you're trying to render in the view, really. So I don't think map layers doesn't really change that. It's just a standard response time in terms of the number of marks in the view. Yeah. So any other questions?
Super. I don't see any in the chat, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thanks a lot,
Great.
Nabil and Mark. And people have asked me a lot if and when this material will be available. So there's high demand. We will send an email with your Tableau Public links to these visualizations that you showed today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.